a funny thing happened on the way to the conclusion of the Captain America trilogy. It ended up becoming the third Avengers movie, and probably the best Avengers movie. Because really, Infinity War, for all the praise and everything, I think of it as Marvel, the movie. Because the Avengers are in it, yeah, but, well. And, of course, the Avengers are actually kind of broken up at the time the movie begins. And why? What happened? Well, you could see the cracks forming in the team along the way, and then we get to this. Now, from Winter Soldier, we discovered that Bucky Barnes was alive and had been kept on ice and then thawed out as after he'd been brainwashed and turned into a super assassin with a metal arm. Yeah. And so he was sent on these horrible missions of killing people and forced to do all this. And now he's starting to come back to his own personality. He remembers Captain America, Steve Rogers, and all this stuff. And he's in hiding. But, well, Age of Ultron really messed everything up. Not only was it kind of a lackluster bad movie, but it devastated the name of the Avengers after their triumphant victory in New York, which was still the damage to civilians and property and whatnot is so prevalent in superhero movies because, well, it's not like a Super Friends cartoon. Terrible things can happen when there's buildings exploding and all this sort of stuff, and superheroes are fighting supervillains and what have you. That's going to happen. And so now several incidences of this happens where they're on a mission seeking out Crossbones, who was one of the Hydra agents that was intent on killing Captain America and Winter Soldier, and he got horribly scarred, and it seems to indicate that his nervous system doesn't quite work as much, so he doesn't feel pain. But anyway, he's basically a terrorist at this point, and they were stealing, weapons and whatnot. I forget the whole thing. But you get a lot of action and stuff, and it's all cool and stuff, but it doesn't end well. There's an attempt where Crossbones intends to kill himself along with blowing up Captain America as he's taunting him about Bucky. And Scarlet Witch manages to contain the explosion so it doesn't kill Cap, and then she throws Crossbones away, but then the explosion goes off and devastates a building, killing God knows how many. And oh boy, it's bad. So now that's in the news, and this is after what happened in Sokovia, where they destroyed a city, and the shrapnel of it fell down, and all this stuff. And not only is there a price to pay for that in public opinion and the loss of life, but it creates their villain, and this will be Baron Zemo. Now, Baron Zemo is not quite the character from the comics, and I saw concept art where they were going to have him at least wear the purple mask at times, but they decided to drop it. And this is more of a guy who might have some amount of sympathy in why he has a desire for revenge, but what he does pretty much squelches all that because he becomes... Because the Avengers, it's people caught in the crossfire and accidental in the deaths. They did not mean to do it. They just weren't as good as they thought they were. Plus, Ultron, of course, was Tony Stark's invention. So there's that. But Zemo, of course, doesn't give him license to just murder people all over the place in his pathway to revenge against the Avengers. So... there you go. So yeah, he's the villain. So here's an interesting thing where we get introduced to the Black Panther, and this is how you weave in new characters, especially when you're going to make them such an important part of the Avengers story. Unlike what they did with Captain Marvel, she should have been introduced little bits here and there along the way. Instead, she was just sort of slapped on. Very lazy, very sloppy work on that. But, and actually, Black Panther, he just comes across so much cooler in this than he does in his own film. His film's okay. It's good. It's a fun adventure film. But, here, there's a lot of great scenes in it. Now, the movie is not perfect. It's not as good as Winter Soldier is, but, the plot here never quite explains how Zemo learns all of this and why he zeroes in on the particular mission. That obviously it's just like he tortures a Hydra agent in hiding, ends up killing him, but he's trying to get the information about Bucky Winter Soldier's mission, in which the big reveal, I'm sure we've all seen it by now, is that Winter Soldier murdered Tony Stark's parents. He was sent there to kill them and steal some, well, I guess a new super soldier serum that they ended up using to try to create their own super soldiers. It didn't go well. They became homicidal maniacs, so they had to keep him on ice. And so there's that. But then how would he even know to look for this? Did he hear rumors of it? I guess. I don't know, but he knows it. And he wants to get to the Winter Soldier. He finds the book that has the code words that can trigger his programming, and so he does. And meanwhile, he frames Winter Soldier for a terrorist attack at a diplomatic meeting concerning the Sokovia Accords, which are accords being set up to regulate the superheroes. Now, this is a reference to the Civil War series that Marvel produced, which was actually a metaphor for what was going on with Bush and the Iraq War and all that type of stuff, and the Patriot Act. Well, here you have, once again, this is supposed to be a Captain America movie, but it's really Avengers 3. And Captain America, once again, is actually wrong here. And all he had to do was work out some kind of deal here and possibly even save Bucky through legal means. But he doesn't. He just reacts with raw emotion and no real thinking at all. It's understandable because of his feelings for his friend and the shock that he's alive, and then learning what happened to him and all that. He just wants to save him and all that, and that's all well and good, but Iron Man is ultimately correct here. They went off arrogantly on their own, and they did things that got people killed, and they need to rein this in and think about how you're going to do this. And also, it's acts of war committing when you just cross boundaries and nations and sovereignties all the time to do whatever you want, and you don't care what anyone else thinks about it. And when you're getting civilians killed like that, it just shows that you're not the great wonders that you say you are. And so they're putting like General Ross here. Now he's the Secretary of State as a bad guy. He's not. His points are perfectly understandable. And Tony is in this position because he's confronted by a woman who lost her son. And so the guilt is pushing him more and more. And he's just, we got to do this. And he's had to learn his lessons of arrogance the hard way. Of maybe a little too much, a little repetition there, but it's the storyline that grows through the films. And so that's the point here. And even though the only mistake here is initially believing Winter Soldier was guilty, when of course he wasn't for this crime, but he's guilty for a lot more. Granted, he was brainwashed, and that is something they needed to discuss and work out. But then that would be a boring movie. So that is the weakest part, is Captain America's motivation, and Zemo, his sources and whatnot. We just have to make a lot of broad assumptions there. But the rest of it's pretty good. So Bucky is framed, and sadly, T'Challa's Black Panther's father is a victim of this, and an innocent victim of it. Even Zemo admits it at the end. He had no gripe against him, just like he had no gripe against all the people he killed. He was just getting to his goal of destroying the Avengers, which he pretty much does. But still. So, yeah, he tries to kill himself at the end, but Black Panther said, no, you're gonna live with this. And so there you go. Martin Freeman's character is introduced here. We'll see him, of course, in Black Panther and all that. So, it's an important movie. And so the split happens over the disagreement of the Sokovia Accords at first, and then Tony discovers the truth about Winter Soldier, And then he suspects, they have their big, oh, wait, what am I doing? They had their big battle at the airport where they're taking Bucky to go find out what the deal is about this old abandoned Hydra base that has all the super soldiers in it and where the real villain Zemo is probably at. And, we are introduced to Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man comes in here, and it's great. He looks fantastic. The working with it, the battle is spectacular. We see Ant-Man show up and become Giant Man. It's really great stuff. And Spider-Man works out well here. And boy, I was really excited. Like, man, I can't wait to see his own film. And then I saw it, and I'm sorry I ever did. I don't know what happened. I don't know what they were thinking. But, boy, if you just think of Spider-Man in this movie, it's good. But what are you going to do? And, they introduce this, sort of father-son relationship between Tony. Kind of like older brother at first, but, that's pretty much what it is between Tony and Peter Parker. So, yeah, that battle is, really cool and spectacular. And then they do give more to set up the romance between Vision and Scarlet Witch here, more than they did with the Hulk and Black Widow, where they just sort of slapped it in there. Where here, you're getting it, you can see that she had interest in this entity because she's like, I can sense him, and this sort of thing, and you can see that might lead her towards that. And then he's kind of acting as her bodyguard after she's being blamed for the disaster in the opening battle. And, then she doesn't realize she's not allowed to leave Tony's place. And but you can see where Vision, he has an interest in her. And you can think, well, perhaps it's because she has that connection with him, that's why. And then he's developing feelings for her, even though he's not really a man, but, he sure looks like one. So there you go. But that's more of an effort to set that up so that by the time you get to Infinity War, they're already a couple. So the groundwork is brief, but it's there, unlike Hulk and Black Widow. So good marks on that. And so yes, the terrible battle happens. Wounds are made everywhere. War Machine suffers severe damages and is possibly going to be paralyzed and all this. Of course, we see that he does get his ability back to walk, but pretty bad on his part. And Tony is furious. And so, but then he discovers the truth, and so he's like, all right, I'm going to go deal with this and try to bring these guys one more time, try to bring them in and also possibly save Captain America from walking into a trap. So they go there, and the trap is not quite what they suspect. All the super soldiers are killed by Zemo, and he said that was never his goal. They discover what the goal is. He has a videotape, how convenient, of the killing of Tony Stark's parents. Before I finish this, another example of their, I talked about this in the Ant-Man review, of the de-aging technology and how they're really nailing it, where we see a young version of Tony Stark and his current self, and they see him side by side, and it's really jarring, and he's like, but it's really good. They do a good job, and there's this teenage Tony Stark talking to his parents on the day they passed away. And this sets up the whole raw emotion that's going to overtake Tony Stark when he's trying to be the rational one throughout the movie, but when he sees the video of Winter Soldier murdering his parents, that's it. And Captain America, yeah, but he was brainwashed. I don't care. And that's the trap. Zemo springs it, and it works. And there you go. The Avengers are no more. And there's another spectacular battle between the three of them. And Tony almost wins, but, well, his father's shield. Captain America uses it again, tears up his suit, trashes it, and leaves him there. And then Tony says, that shield doesn't belong to you. And so Captain America leaves it behind. And there's a footnote where Tony is basically having to, I don't know, run some sort of skeleton crew of the Avengers. And he's supposed to keep Thunderbolt Ross abridged of things or whatever, aware, and but he doesn't. And Captain America sends him a message that says, if you need me, I will be there, and I'm sorry for what happened, and I wish it could have been different, all that type of thing. But at the same time, boy, what a What a gaping wound there. But we know that they will recover before it's all over. And but of course, the raw emotion is a powerful tool for theater. That's pretty much what it all is. But things need to make sense, and this more or less does. Like I said, the weaknesses are Zemo's. There's just not enough there for the information he has and where he knows where to go. It works a little too smoothly. And also, you have to chalk up Captain America's motivation to, again, raw emotion that he's not thinking clearly. He's too devoted to Bucky and what he means to him, his childhood friend and all that, and he wants to save him at all costs, even at the cost of his current friends and basically family, that is all but destroyed here. And so there you go, Avengers 3, otherwise known as Captain America Civil War. But once again, the Russos proved that they're the main directorial force that keeps Marvel rolling forward. It wasn't Joss Whedon. So there you go. All right. Thank you for watching and listening. Please like and subscribe. If you didn't like it, well, I thank you anyway. I do appreciate you taking the time. And for those of you who have already subscribed, I really appreciate you. And hey, while you're here, check out that link description below. That'll take you to my many stores that have plenty of goodies for you.